My name is Duree Bryant, and I'm the Supervisor of Human Services for the Village of Schaumburg. The Village recognizes that one of our community's most valuable resources is its senior citizens. That's one of the reasons we help sponsor so many programs and activities for this population. One of these is the Barn Senior Program, located at 231 South Civic Drive, which provides a daily nutritious lunch along with fun and fellowship. Some of our seniors from the barn are here today to share their thoughts and observations on how things have changed in society and our culture over the course of their lifetimes. Their wisdom is something we can all learn and benefit from. Let's hear what they have to say.
We'd like to welcome you to the senior discussion group from the Schaumburg Barn. We have been meeting and discussing changes that have been seen in the past until now. I'd like to introduce our panel members. Doris?
I'm Doris Lane. I live in Schaumburg, but I was born in Chicago.
I'm Julia Gronkiewicz. I was born in north central Wisconsin, and I live in Schaumburg now.
I'm Dorothy Dittmer, born in Chicago, Illinois, but now residing in Schaumburg.
I am Helen Jurewicz. I was born in Chicago, and now I live in Schaumburg.
And I am Lori Candle. I was born and brought up in Brooklyn, New York, but have been a resident of Schaumburg since 1972. It has been said it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And Charles Dickens used that expression when he wrote the book, The Tale of Two Cities. And it seems so apt that we can use that phrase today. I think with the elections that have just taken place, it was the best of times. We are now in a period of change. We are looking forward to the future. However, on the other side of the coin, it was or is the worst of times. We are having economic problems, we have war, we have financial upsets. What we want to look at is most of us, because we're in our 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90 years old, most of us did not bear the worry of the times of our youth, but they were down times, and our families had to cope, just as the families today have to cope. I'd like you to try to look back and remember, what did your parents and family do then that was a coping for survival? We have often said we were happy in our youth, and we were. We didn't have the burdens, but there were coping skills that we have looked back on. Food. There was a problem with obtaining food. Does anybody remember a coping skill that your family had for that particular issue?
We often really remain the family and maintain the family on staple goods such as flour and sugar, cornmeal that we could use for baking biscuits and bread, and buns and all of that, and even donuts. So that was really the staples that maintained us. And our mother often made homemade noodles. She stripped them, we laid them out to dry, and then she cooked them with other things. Dumplings sometimes made out of the bread that we had to wait in line for the flour.
I was born on a dairy farm, so we were very, very self-sufficient. We grew our own fruits and vegetables, and naturally we had all our meats, cattle, pork, poultry, so we were very well supplied with foods, and we didn't run into any problems.
Well, I was just about 14, 15 years old when we had the Great Depression, and it was very hard for our family to get by. But of course, we did go on relief. We had to go and get our staples, which was they'd give us butter, flour, sugar. My brothers used to take the wagon with my mother and go and get these staples. And I will never forget how hard it was. But my mother, for some reason, she always had a way of making something good for us.
And
That I do
stretching it.
remember. Yes, it was very hard.
Well, my mom must have been a real good cook because we never felt the depression. There was always food to eat. I know she had to bake the bread. We never had bought bread. It was baked at home. Twice a week she'd bake the bread. There were the staples. We never went hungry, even though it was depression.
And nothing, I gather, was wasted. What you had,
No,
never.
you used.
Never.
Well, what about employment for you or your family members? We know now that jobs are being lost and families are in dire straits. Was there any difficulties with employment in your past?
Absolutely. My dad was out of work. My brothers went to CCC camp. At that time it was called. It was run by the government, and but we did get by. Mom was a good cook. She made things stretch. She made donuts, like Helen was just saying, different breads, coffee cakes. We got by. It wasn't easy.
You mentioned the CCC. Could
Yes.
you tell us something about
I
that?
don't remember what those 3 C's stand for. but it
Civilian,
was for
Conservation
Yes, it
Corps.
was the young men that went to this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I do remember that this was established for the young men, and they did have to send some of their money back to the family. And we have a lot to thank them
Yes,
for, because they are
absolutely.
responsible for our national parks today.
That's right.
So, can you think of anything else?
I remember my father working for the WPA in Chicago. And in
that
order
too.
to, when you worked for the WPA at that time, you had to present a ticket to the staple line in order to get the foods that you needed. There was no such thing as food stamps at that time. So he worked there, and my mother worked from home. She was a seamstress. So she did a lot of work in the neighborhood, hemming up skirts and things like that.
Of course, we worked strictly on the farm, on our own farm, and it was like a co-op. Everybody helped everybody else. If you were short-handed with anything, material stuff or even help, everybody cooperated, and we just survived nicely with the help of others.